Hello and welcome to Learning Access 2013. My name is Mike Henry and this is the first video from Tutorial 2. In this video we're going to be talking about data types. We're basically going to learn that a data type is a storage bin and it determines what kind of things we can put into that storage bin. So we're going to be talking about data types here. Now data types is something we assign to a field. A lot of people get confused about what data types actually are. So a great way to think about data types is to think about storage units. You go to Staples or Home Depot and you buy these big plastic bins, and when you bring them home you decide what you're going to put in this bin. In one bin you might put sweaters for the winter and you put a big label on there that says sweaters. Another one you might have out in your garage, and in that particular bin you might have all kinds of tools for repairing things around the house, and you got a big sign on it that says tools. You might have another bin that's downstairs in the special closet that says on it summer shoes, and then another one that says winter boots. So each bin gets a special label and it can only hold certain things in that particular bin. Well, this is the same thing. A data type is just assigning a bin and deciding what goes into that particular bin. So when we look at data types here, I'm just going to click this down here, you can see that we have a list that we can choose from. Now the first data type that we have is called short text. For those of you who are familiar with older versions of Access, it was just called text. Basically, this is a bin that allows us to put letters, we can put numbers, or any type of characters, so we can put asterisks and periods and exclamation points, any of those characters. That's all valid to be put into this bin. Now, a short text bin has a certain size to it. So the field size that we can put in there is up to 255 characters. So in this case you can see the patient ID is short text, but we can only have 5 characters in that particular field. So we can go out to that level. By holding and changing the field size, we can determine what can go in and out of there. Now we also have what we call long text. Long text used to be called the memo field, and that just means we can put a lot more in this bin. So we can put up to 65,535 characters in a long text. That's a lot of letters and characters and numbers. So the big difference between short text and long text is the ability to alphabetize. We can alphabetize short text. You know, that might be someone's last name. It might be first names. It might be cities. Those make sense to alphabetize. A long text most likely is going to be huge paragraphs of information, some type of memo. Usually you're not going to alphabetize that, and you can't alphabetize it as a long text. So the next field down is a number, and a number is basically just what we say it is. It's a number. We have some different types of numbers that we can put in there when we talk about category. I'm just going to click on a field here, and I'll put in test, and then I'll create this new field as a number. Now you can see we have different field sizes that can go with that. One of them is called a long integer. We have bytes, integers, long integers. Basically this is just defining our box a little bit more. A byte is a smaller number. Up to 255 is the number. An integer lets me grow into a much bigger number, and then a long integer allows me to get into a much larger number, up into the beyond the billions. A single and a double is a type of number that allows me to have decimal points. So integers can't have decimal points. Singles and doubles allow me to have either 7 or 14 decimal points. And then a decimal actually lets me have even more, up to 28 places if I'm doing particular scientific calculations. So this just lets me to define my number a little bit better. Let me come back up here, and this data type here called date and time allows us to record a date and a time. Imagine how creative they are with their naming. What this is a really important piece. If I put the date in a short text field, I do have the date. But if I put it into a date and time field, the big difference is now I can do date math. There's a particular day on the calendar, it has a number. So if I know two different days, I have the two different numbers. I can do subtraction and find out how many days in between those two. And I can do the same with time. So it's really important if you're doing date and time to use it as a date and time field and not just type it in as text. Currency is just a number that has some type of currency associated with it. Now, currency doesn't mean it's a US dollar. We could put in pounds or some other type of money type, euros. An auto number is another specialized number. The auto number goes in sequencing. We started at 1, it goes to 2, it goes to 3, it goes to 4, it goes to 5. Auto numbering makes a great field for the primary key because we can never use the same number over again. It will always add 1 to the next one. So an auto number is the perfect spot to be using for a primary key. A yes/no box, we've talked about that before. Basically that means true or false, yes or no, positive or negative. So if you click it, it's positive. If it's unclicked, it's a negative. And it comes in a box. An OLE object is basically any type of electronic signal. A lot of us we use pictures. It might be some other type of electronic signal, and we've recorded that. So your driver's license, your student ID probably has a picture on it, and if it does, that's an OLE object that's linked in there. A hyperlink, that could be a web address somewhere, a link to somewhere out in the network, or hyperlink is also used for recording emails. That way we can spam someone later on in life. An attachment's a very important box because this allows me to put something in the box that's an electronic file or an attachment. So if I'm going to upload a PDF or a Word document to some database, I need an attachment holder for that. When you do my homeworks, you're actually uploading into an attachment box and you're putting in there the database that I have in there. A calculated field is a new one. They started this in 2010. It allows me to take two different fields and do some type of calculation or some type of combining of these two fields. Now, in the past, most people did this through a query. They would combine things in queries, or they would do the math in queries and never record the results because it was easier to run a query. The calculated field is something that's new. I think it's Microsoft's way of trying to get more Excel users to feel comfortable with this. I will still be teaching the old school method that when we're going to do math calculations, we're going to do them in a query and not store those results because that's wasting resources. So in this video we learned about storage bins or data types. We learned that we need to create the type of bin that we're going to be putting our data into, and our bin should be set up for that type of data. We wouldn't want to collect a whole bunch of dates in a short text form, because if we do, later on in life when we want to start doing date math, we wouldn't be able to do it. So it's really important to think through your decisions long before you want to use that particular data.